Hello, it's Sarah Cannell. Welcome back to the show. And I'm really excited to be here today with a special guest who you'll meet in just one moment so that we can have a invigorating, dynamic, exciting conversation about all things legal in the thought leadership world. This is a hot topic. This is something that I know many of us are thinking about, wondering about, have questions about. What are the things we need to be thinking about in terms of trademarks, in terms of copywriting, in terms of our contracts and agreements? There's so much to the legal side of thought leadership. And so we have an incredible guest. Berkley Sweetapple is here with us today, intellectual property attorney and business attorney extraordinaire. And so you're going to meet Berkley. We're going to have a conversation, do some Q&A. I have assembled a list of Berkley, our most frequently asked questions from our community so that we can have a really useful conversation today. But I'm going to go ahead and just pin us so that we can chat together. And here we go. All right. So, Berkley, first of all, thank you so much for making the time to be with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Well, we were introduced by a mutual friend and then had a Zoom together and, of course, hit it off. And I couldn't wait to talk further, not only because you specialize in something that is always it's like an ever ongoing list of important things, which is business legal guidance and trademarking and copywriting. But those of us who are writing books, who are developing intellectual property, who are running programs, managing, there's so many components that legal touches in this space. So before we get into Q&A and asking all the things that is on everyone's minds and hearts, would you share a little bit about where you live, how you came to do this work, and then we can go from there.
Sure. So I live in South Florida, in Boca Raton, Florida. I went to Boston College
Yeah.
Law, and while I was in law school, I felt like if you've ever seen Legally Blonde, like
Yeah.
Elwood, where you just like don't belong. Um, and that's sort of how I felt in the beginning of my career. I did business litigation,
Mm.
fighting over problems that could have been avoided. And in my attempt to escape the law, which clearly never happened, but I'm glad that it didn't, I started a legal lifestyle blog and I met other online business owners who were trying to
Mm.
monetize like creative ventures.
Yeah.
And they all came to me with legal questions. And I didn't know any answers at the time, but I was like, wow, what a great niche and
Mm.
area to kind of go into. So that's what I did I've been an attorney for 11 years, but I started my firm in 2021 and sort of transitioned into the world of helping founders legally protect their business so that they could avoid all of the expensive and stressful things I saw while doing litigation.
Oh, I love this so much because I don't know a single entrepreneur, writer, thought leader alive that says, I'd really love to get into a situation where I need to litigate, right? Said no one ever. Said
Right.
no one ever. So I'm so grateful that you're here to guide us and inspire us today about how we can be proactive, how we can set ourselves up for success, how we can protect our work and our businesses. So I love that. And I'm ever jealous in the winter of you living in Boca, although I get to come next week for that conference I told you about. So very much looking forward to not being in Chicago where
Yeah.
it's
I
still
don't blame
fairly
you.
cold. So wonderful. All right. So you came into this niche sort of sideways after having seen what litigation was like, realizing so much could be prevented, and now you help people do just that. So what an incredible gift. And let's talk about there's buckets, right, of things that you generally probably help people with. Are I'm gonna ask you if what a lot of us here in this community as thought leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, are we kind of hitting the best ofs or the greatest hits? So
Mhm.
typically in our space, it's trademarking, our methodology and our intellectual property, as it makes sense, right? There's trademarking. Certainly there's always copywriting for writing a book, or we're doing other also in the intellectual property protection camp. But then any of us who how many of you, even here in our live audience, how many of you coach people? Right? You need to have agreements and contracts and different business documents and things that we have. So I would say when I look at my own business, it's contracts, it's operating agreements. Any of you partner in business, right? That's operators agreements, like who's doing what, who owns what if we get divorced, right? People do prenups for relationships, but not always in business partnerships, right? So it's those type of things than trademarking. Is there anything else that I didn't name that you work with people on that we need to be thinking about?
Yes, I mean, you hit the main ones. So I would say like trademarks, copyright, contracts slash terms of purchase if you're having people
Right?
check out, kind of
Yeah.
interchangeable. Website policies. So having a
Oh.
website terms of use, having a privacy policy,
Mm.
and then having like necessary disclaimers. So if you have affiliates, having
Mm.
affiliate disclaimers, if you're referencing earnings or like testimonials with results, having an earnings disclaimer.
Yeah. That's
And then, of
huge.
course, like having a business entity.
Yeah. And do
Yeah.
you get into it all, Berkeley? And this may be a whole different conversation that we could have a roundtable. There's a lot more talk now about even FTC rules and like what entrepreneurs are even legally allowed to say in terms of claims, testimonials. Is there anything you advise on that, or do you refer out to, okay, this is where we need to consult someone who's really specializing in that?
Yeah, no, we deal a lot with FTC disclaimers and rules because it impacts advertising and
Yeah.
claims you can make on the internet. And
Yes.
they have really thorough and consumer-friendly guides on their
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
So they're actually like a great resource. But
That's good to know.
that comes up a lot in like if you have if you're promoting a product for free or if you get a commission if you're promoting someone's product, like FTC
Mm,
guidelines come into play with that, with earnings disclaimers and
yeah.
what you have to do when you make any kind of claim with someone's, like you have to save each time you use a testimonial or reference someone's results, you have to keep a record of that like in a Google Drive. So they have very specific like rules you have to follow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I love this. So these are the kind of things I want everyone listening to this episode to be making a list for yourself. Do you feel empowered, clear, updated, current on your claims, your checkout, your checkout copy, your language, contracts, trademarking, copywriting? Like these are some of the main things you wanted to see. Not only do I have these things in place, but are they updated, right? Because Berkeley, let's just talk about tell us some of the mistakes people make. They say, I wish I'd come to you sooner. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so trademarks are a huge one. So many people come to me on a weekly basis and they're like, I'm finally ready to do this,
Yeah.
or it's too late and they've gotten a cease and desist and someone has trademarked the name they love or the name they've been using and they have
Mm,
to rebrand. So that's a really common scenario
mhm.
I see. And although you can have like common law rights if you've been
Yeah.
using your business name or a podcast name for a long time, you do have like some rights, but oftentimes it becomes just too expensive to enforce those common law rights if someone is trademarked first,
Yeah.
because then you're looking at like opposing someone's trademark, canceling someone's trademark,
Yeah.
rather than just, filing for the trademark when you know you have a name you love that you would be upset if you had to lose.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was going to ask, can we follow up on that? What are things that you can, could you give us just some overview
yeah.
of like, you can trademark this, you can't this? Like, for example, I know in
Yes.
the book world, like we can't trademark a title of a book. Like there are books
Mhm.
that have the same title, right? But you can trademark like your method in the book. So tell us a few things we need to be keeping in mind.
So you can trademark, and I'll start with the book example because I think that's a great kind of caveat where like you don't know unless you know kind of what
Yeah.
they allow you to register and what they don't. So you can trademark the name of a series of a book. So if you have more than one book, you can trademark. Like
Mm,
Harry Potter, it's a series. Like you
right.
can trademark that. Um, Methodologies are also like a tricky one where
Mm,
when you submit a trademark application, you have to show them a specimen. So that's like an example
mhm.
of how you're using the mark. So usually that's like a website page.
Mhm.
If you're a coach and you have business services, it's like the page on your website showing that you're a coach and
Right.
outlining your services.
Yeah.
But methodologies are not enough like on their own. like if they're
Hmm.
just kind of like in the book, it needs to be a source identifier. So a trademark
Ah,
is any word, phrase, or design that identifies the source of your goods or services. So like the name of a product, the name of a course. So a lot of
mm,
people have, like I have a client and she's mentioned this publicly so I can
yeah,
disclose her info.
yeah,
But she has what's called the Alcatranian method. It's like a diet. It's like a non-anti-diet diet.
yeah,
And so we have the trademark for the Alcatranian method, but that wouldn't have been enough, just
yeah.
the method alone. She also has it as the name of an online course, and that's
Right.
sufficient for the Patent and Trademark Office to trademark. So other examples of what you can and should versus what you can't trademark. You can trademark your business name, your course
Hmm.
name, your podcast name, a book series.
Hmm.
Um, if you use your full name as your name, like I have Berkley Sweetapple as a registered trademark because I used to have my template, my legal template shop
Ah,
under my name. If
yep.
you use your full name as your brand, like Jenna Kutcher, Tony Robbins, these are
Right.
all trademarks. So you want to
Mm,
trademark your name. But if you have your last name combined with your services, like say you have a consulting firm and your last name is Smith, Smith Consulting is going to be very hard to trademark because
right.
they don't like last names. So you get a surname refusal. You might go
Got
on the supplemental register, which is not as powerful.
it. Mm,
Generic terms. So if you were like the online course boot camp, that's very generic.
right.
Can't trademark that. Um, if you're overly descriptive, that's bad. So the best trademarks are like arbitrary words. When you're thinking of like what to name something, like a
Yeah.
course or a podcast, something that's arbitrary, like Apple's selling computers. Apple has nothing to do with computers when you put those
Right.
words next to each other. So
Right. This is so fascinating because I went through a phase about a year ago where I thought, why are the pharmaceutical companies naming these drugs, these medications, such ridiculous sounding names? It'd be like Skyrizi and blah blah blah. And I remember just thinking, because I watched football games, like we were a big football family, so we're watching football on the weekends, and every one of these is these bizarre, goofy sounding names, and I thought this is so weird. And then a friend of mine who is in the medical patenting and trademarking space, she said, "Sarah, they have to be these very distinguishable words that no one else can have, and that's why you're going to see these drug names be so ridiculous." And I thought, oh, interesting, because I thought, who's sitting around a table and being like, let's call this anti-inflammatory drug, Skyrizi. And if anyone remembers other ones, I mean, they're kind of, it's like a great categories category to do because they're so ridiculous. But now I understand it was because of
yeah.
trademarking.
And that's how you get the strongest protection.
Right. Right. Because no one else is calling it this odd,
No one
non-word
else
word. Like
wants Skyrizi.
no
Yeah.
one else wants it. It's good. Everyone's like, you can have that one, Eli Lilly or whoever has that. Okay. Really cool, Berkeley. All right. So now talk to us about what other either mistakes do you see people making waiting too long to trademark is definitely a big one, right? Because then you're disappointed you didn't get it, someone else has it, or you can't defend it. What else should we be proactive about?
Having the necessary contracts in place. So, like your client contract being number one,
Yeah.
and just, oh, I think we're seeing a lot of like ramifications of ChatGPT coming in. Like a
Yeah.
lot of our work has been cleaning up things or like, you know, disputes over contracts that are clearly written by ChatGPT and have like conflicting paragraphs. So just reading your contract and being like, does this match the way I do business and
Right.
want to do business? And like, does my refund policy accurately reflect what I want it to say? Or like, how
Yeah.
much notice does someone have to give to terminate a contract? Are they on the hook for all of the payments or can they get out of it? Like if you're, paying in installments. Um, Being really clear on deliverables so you're not over giving, you
Yeah.
know? And, even as lawyers, like we review our engagement agreement multiple times of a year because something is bound to happen in business. And like you're always learning about what people might think is included and you want, so you're always like just always having that mindset of like refining your contract as you change the way you do business.
Yes.
And then making sure you have agreements in place, not just with clients, but with affiliates, referral partners, like you said, partners. Even if you're starting something with your friend, even if you think nothing bad will happen, like
Oh, please.
having,
Everybody get the prenup in your business arrangements, right? I mean, because we're such like good-hearted, mission-driven people, and we're like, it'll all be fine. And I really, I will never do a business, even again, just even a project with someone without having a contract of what if, but what if we get divorced? What if this goes in a way, not to be negative, but so that everyone feels good. And it's so you can have so much peace of mind because you'll know that if you decide you don't want to work together anymore, or you feel like the other person's not holding up their end of things, you have something to go back to. Berkeley, I think that's what's so reassuring, that you have something that's not about personality. It's not about your friendship or your relationship. It's just, hey, this is what we agreed to. It's in writing, and we can just make sure that this is being upheld. And
yeah, it's having systems that you can rely on in times of emotion.
yeah,
And like that gives you peace of mind just in general day to day with your business.
yeah.
Like I have clients who are running eight-figure businesses and they're still sending out, like they don't anymore, but they were sending out their own payment demands. So when someone inevitably like defaults on a payment plan, they're chasing them down. Whereas like to stay in the role of CEO, and like now they have systems where it's like, okay, I have my admin reach out twice and then they hand it, off to us and we
Right.
take over. And just having those systems in place, like when
Mm,
I launch something new, I filed a trademark before, and so you don't
yeah.
have to like think about it. It's just this is what I do as CEO.
What I love about this, and I don't remember, I don't want to misattribute this quote, but it might be Simon Sinek. It's someone in that space, Daniel Pink. But it's essentially that our business will not rise to the level of our goals. It will fall to the level of our systems. And I
I
think you
love
just
that.
beautifully showed us an example that you just say, oh, our policy is when I have a new thing that I'm sure I'm going for, we trademark. When we set up a business partnership of any kind, like you said, affiliate relationships, it could be anything, just making sure that we have that language and it's been reviewed. And again, I mean, I don't even want to have the conversation now of should we let ChatGPT write our legal documents. I mean, I'm so, we're all fatigued from this. But Berkeley, is there anything you do want to say? I mean, I'm a no to that, obviously, which is why, I just think I have so many friends who are attorneys that like they can't even believe the kind of, what's showing up as people's legal arguments when.
I know. And I think it comes down to, I think we all know ChatGPT is not going to be as like good as a lawyer. I think we can like
Sure.
all agree on that. But how do you feel inside having your contracts written by ChatGPT? Like, do you feel good about it day to day? You probably running your business and like when I'll back up, a lot of people come to me and they're like, I have been holding myself back from scaling, from
Mm,
posting, from like selling because I know I'm like doing things wrong or I'm afraid to
mm,
do things wrong. And I think so much of business has to do with like how you feel about yourself and your business and your level of confidence and what you're doing. And I think if you're running on AI, you probably don't feel confident.
mhm,
I
it's
would hope that you don't. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's just too important of an area, and again, it's not to say, like, to your point, if someone wants to draft up so they can articulate to an attorney, here's kind of what we want in here, or here's the thing, just as like a way to organize our thoughts, beautiful. It's the same way we teach book writing. Like, I don't let AI write my books. I do
yeah,
thought partner with AI around, oh, like, what should I do in this section? Or, go grab me some research on this. I really wanted an incredible statistic from a peer reviewed source that would be really an emphasis point to this thing I'm teaching. I love it for that, right? I love it to be a research partner and help bring me
totally.
things, but it's not what's going in the book. It's not what is my legal contract.
No, I mean, AI can be an amazing tool.
Yeah.
if you put in your contract and you're like, what other things in this industry might I be missing? Like,
Yes.
what might be missing from this? And then the lawyer
Mhm.
actually drafts the language or
Right.
finalizes the language.
Exactly. I love it for that. Love that.
Yeah.
So, Berkeley, what is there anything in 2026 that's changing that's on the horizon? Are there any kind of forecasting pieces that you want to share with us?
So, privacy laws are always changing. So, just like having an updated privacy policy is really important. There's also with the use of AI, there's also we're seeing like bullying tactics of law firms kind of using AI to see where people are not in compliance with the law, like where they don't have cookies
Mm.
pop-ups, where they don't have privacy policies, and then like leveraging settlements. So I would say just like be
Ooh.
aware of kind of how other people are using AI. This comes up a lot with like copyrighted photos too. Like we have
Mm.
people who are posting pictures they found on Pinterest, and people are doing a reverse search of the internet and finding
Right.
photos that have been, registered with the US Copyright Office and then leveraging settlements from that. So just being aware that as
Wow.
AI like increases,
Mm.
your exposure increases, even if you're a small business.
That's so interesting. And so, just again, everybody making sure that we're in total integrity, we're crediting, we're asking permission. If you had photographs taken by a photographer and they said, sure, of course, they're yours, just always, like cite me as the photographer. However, I know some of our photographers, we have that arrangement with, some don't, some just do the pictures and say it's yours, don't credit. So just understand that's really interesting. What about that made me think about so privacy, let's put another minute on that because when we talk about privacy language, that's describe some of the main ways. For example, obviously we can't add someone to our email list without them opting in, or what tell us a little more about the
Yeah,
privacy.
so like in the footer of websites, you'll see terms of service or terms of use and a privacy policy. If you're collecting any kind of personal information on your website, so say you even have just like a contact form or like
Hmm.
a freebie where you put in your name and your
Yeah.
email, you're collecting personal information that way. And a lot of these major jurisdictions like the EU, California, they have pretty strict privacy laws.
Yeah.
And it matters where your website visitors are, not necessarily where you are. So
Ah,
you need to be in compliance with all of these different privacy laws to make
yeah.
sure that your privacy policy accurately describes how you are collecting, storing, and sharing that personal information.
That's huge. And I would imagine that extends to, like you said, it's freebies where we do opt-ins, right? So all of you who are training with us, you'll have your book portals or your, lead generation things, collecting names and emails, sometimes phone numbers, in some cases. And then also though quizzes and assessments, right? Because that's where you're having people answer. They're putting in name and email, but also answering demographic or psychographic information, doing your assessment or quiz. So I would imagine it extends there as well.
Yeah, and a big one is like ads. If you're running ads and having any kind
Mm.
of pixel on your
Oh,
website,
right.
that's another one. And Google, Meta, they all require a privacy policy as
Yeah.
well on any landing page.
So I want everyone to put that on your checklist, right? Berkeley's giving us a thing. Do I have privacy language? Have I clearly identified this on websites, with freebies, and with social media if you're running ads or in any other way collecting that data? Which I hope we are all doing those things. Hope we're all building our email lists every day, and we're adding to our social media followings every day. Anything else? Is there anything special with Substack is blowing up? We're talking a lot about Substack here. Is there anything else on any of the platforms that's you'd say, oh, just if you're a TikTok person, I want you also to think about X? Or is it pretty much the same, like you said, Meta,
I,
and Google,
in terms of privacy or
or
in
any
terms
other
of
legal
general?
things that we want? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could spend a whole hour talking about just
Right.
like social media do's and don'ts. So crediting somebody is not enough. Generally, like the reposting feature is fine because
Yeah.
Meta has terms in there that you can do
Right.
that. But using another person's picture in your content, like you see all of these memes where people put these, like Taylor Swift and Travis
Right.
Kelce getting engaged, and
Right.
it's like that you can't just repost somebody. Like that's not fair use.
Yeah.
That's just copyright infringement and you
Wow.
could get in trouble. So even if something seems trendy, I would like be careful and just make sure that you have permission, like affirmative permission to post something.
Interesting. What if we, because then that gets into reaction videos that people are doing, or that's like a thing that people, like if you're talking to a social media marketer, they'll say, take someone's post that's trending and then do a reaction video. So what do you think? Yeah.
I haven't seen this trend.
Oh, it's a thing. It's a thing, Berkeley. So basically the strategy is someone has some viral, video and you would take, like, let's say I wanted to take Gary Vee talking about something, he's a big social media marketer. So in my post, I'd have Gary Vee playing his video in the background and then I would be responding and
So
giving
if
my
you're
2 cents.
That could fall under fair use. Don't
Okay.
quote me on that, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
could, just because if you're doing something in like the educational context,
Yeah.
you can,
Okay.
yeah. I'll get
Interesting.
back to you on that. I
Okay,
have to
good.
see
Yes.
this trend.
We'll do
Yeah.
a part two, like you said, a whole hour we could do on just that. Is there anything else, Berkeley, that I mean, this has already been so great because you've given us a checklist of what we need to be thinking about. Are all of these buckets within our businesses up to current standards, legally privacy, trademarking, contracts, any terms and conditions that we have, social media claims, anything else that you want to make sure we know and think about this year?
So we briefly touched on copyright, but just
Yeah.
copywriting original works of authorship, that's what's going to allow you to like sue someone and get damages if they do copy your work.
Yeah.
So photographs, video, ebooks, books,
Hmm.
if you're self-publishing, doing it anything yourself, just copywriting it.
Yeah.
We talked about, forming a business entity,
Yeah.
LLC,
Hmm.
corporation,
Hmm.
contracts. If you have digital products, you'll want a digital products terms of purchase. So
Mm,
that just like tells people that they can't take your digital products and
right.
resell them. And um,
Yeah.
so terms of purchase for any like coaching or digital product thing that
Yep,
you
that's huge for everybody. Remember, if you do put out like your workbook that goes with you don't want someone, this has happened twice in the last 6 months for just me personally. People have come to some training that I did, took it exactly, and then used it in their own mark, put their name. It's happened 2 times in the last 6 months. But if I don't copyright that stuff, I have no grounds. I can't do anything about it, right? So I think that's so important for us all. People do it. It's unfortunate. I wish it didn't happen. Because I would never think of doing, you know what I mean? Like those of us who, that's not in our value system, we wouldn't do it. And then we get shook. I got very surprised, when this happened and, people will do it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, and like ideally you have a terms of purchase, so you have a breach of contract claim,
Yes.
but copywriting is like that's where you're going to get the most damages.
So Berkeley, tell us, let's say we've looked at this checklist and of these 7 or so areas, we realize, ooh, I've got some fine tuning, I've got some updating of things I need to do. How can people, how do people work with you? I know you have various things where there are some templates, there are some obviously people working with you, and your team to actually create contracts in a more interactive way. Tell us a little bit about how your practice operates so we can know where to get help if we need it.
Yeah, so my law firm, we work one-on-one with founders. So if you have like an a la carte contract or trademark, we can help with that. We also have like VIP days, which are a little bit more comprehensive. And
Mhm.
then I have the business studio, which is a contract template shop. So we have like downloadable fill in the blank templates for things like privacy policies that you probably don't want to research or
Everybody,
draft yourself.
like,
Yeah.
thank you. Right. So if you're sitting here today feeling a knot in your stomach and you're like, I don't think I have privacy policies or I haven't made sure they're up to code with the EU or with California, right? Because, like, as you said, Berkeley, we are all serving a global audience at this point if we're online. And so it's not just about where we live, it's about the people that are interacting with our brand and our work. So we can go to the studio and we can get the templates because that's not something, that's pretty standard. Like you said, we just need to be in compliance with the international laws.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Thank you so much for making that available to
Of
us. And we'll
course.
put that in the show notes because I know a lot of you are streaming on the social platforms. But Berkeley, what's the best? Just should people go to your website to access the studio or direct link there?
Yeah, it's thebusinessstudio.com.
Okay, so thebusinessstudio.com, everybody. We'll link that
And
here. Yeah.
I'm on Instagram at Berkley Sweetapple. So if you're also just like confused about where to start, send me a voice note. That's probably
Yes.
easiest.
I love it. I love it.
Just talk to
So
me.
if you want to talk to Berkley, go to Instagram at Berkley Sweetapple and send Berkley a voice note so she can help find you the right thing. And then you can go to the business studio and get templates, right? We all need to make sure our privacy. I'm definitely going to go back through everything and make sure, that as we launch new things, I want to make sure that we do have the updated privacy language. We just updated my website and our speaker page. I need to go back and make sure, like, I think they're there, but let's make sure, right? We don't want to not do our due diligence and, like you said, Berkeley, end up with the people you served early in your career when you were in litigation and had to go that route. Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I'm so excited. I know that we have many more tendrils of this conversation that we're going to want to have. And so grateful for you to take some time and help us. Still first quarter, everybody. We're still in the first quarter of the year. We have this next month. So we could make a goal. I'm going to invite everybody to make the goal by the end of the first quarter, which is March 31st, right? That we just all have our legal stuff buttoned up. And if there are new things, like I've got a new book coming out, we have things. If you're launching new things this year, then make sure that you've got a plan for your trademarking and your copywriting of your new stuff. Awesome.